Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the documentary Disclosure. And this is about trans perspectives in film and television and pop culture. And this is a really powerful documentary. And at the very center of it, Laverne Cox is in it a lot. And the documentary spends a lot of time interviewing trans people about their experiences and their reactions to how trans people have been portrayed in pop culture. And over the course of time, like especially early on, where it was just men cross-dressing for laughs, and it was always a butt of jokes. Or, like, they talked a lot about how Alfred Hitchcock had a weird thing for making serial killers and murderers out of people dressing up as the opposite sex. And one point that really hit me hard was I love Ace Ventura. Love Ace Ventura. And I remember watching Pet Detective relatively recently and realizing how uncomfortable one particular twist in that movie is to watch now. And I felt really sad because they had a trans actor, and talking about how this was his favorite movie when he was a kid, and watching it now, how hard it is to watch because how disrespectful it is in terms of trans people. Like, Jim Carrey is using a plunger on his mouth. Like, you'd rather have feces covered plunger on your mouth than kissing a man. And those kinds of things are so poignant and resonant in this film because it's trans people talking about their experiences and their own reactions. Because it's hard for, say, a white cis man to sit here and watch these portrayals and really appreciate the problematic nature of a lot of them when it's not from my perspective. And seeing these people taking the time to really bare themselves in this documentary and talking about those experiences was really powerful. And I feel like it gave me a lot of perspective on what's right and what's wrong and what's really helpful and what's not helpful. And it was nice as it built a natural progression, building up to shining a light on some very specific things like, say, Pose. And I love that show. I really enjoyed the first season. I look forward to watching the second season. Finally giving a light to shine on trans people and trans actors playing trans people. Because that was another thing. And it definitely dove into that idea of a man playing a trans woman in a film, and when you're outside of that film, they're just a man again. And it just seems like a man dressing up as a woman, and inherently an underlining feeling of that puts inside people's heads. And I feel like that was something that hit a lot harder than I was expecting, because they talked a lot about Dallas Buyers Club. And that gave me a new perspective on that film because it made me sad to think about how that character played by Jared Leto was used, because here's this well-performed, well-developed character there to help this white guy find his own perspective and become more understanding, and then once he grew, this trans woman can just die and be done with because her job was done helping with the arc of the main character. And it's just like, oh, ugh. Because from my perspective, not understanding it as much when I watched that film for the first time, I thought it was a very powerful film and appreciated it. Like, they gave a lot of good representation of a trans character in that film, but really thinking about what damage that can do and how it's portrayed, that character. And this documentary gives a lot of perspective on that, and I feel like I have a lot more understanding and have come a lot, like, I felt like it was a worthwhile watch, and it's a really well put together documentary. It's not something that's big and flashy and doesn't do anything ambitious in terms of a filmmaking perspective, but it takes a look at something that doesn't get due justice. And I feel like this documentary did a lot of justice, and I really appreciated it, and I'm glad I watched it. And I feel like a lot of other people should go check this out on Netflix right now. So that's a hard recommend. Go check out Disclosure. And this is something I'd really want to talk about, so watch it. Leave your comments below, and let's have a conversation. Let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.